Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're talking about a tool that is totally changing the game for scientists who use AI. It's all about breaking down barriers and, well, supercharging discovery. All right, let's jump right in. AI and machine learning, they're giving us this incredible new superpower. It's the ability to actually understand the super complex biological world happening inside our very own cells, right down to the nitty-gritty. If you really want to understand life itself, you've got to understand proteins. They're like these tiny, tiny machines that do, well, pretty much all the work in our bodies. And there's a whole field of science for this, dedicated to studying them on a massive scale. It's called proteomics. But here's the thing. There's a huge problem, a real disconnect. You've got all these brilliant researchers creating amazing new AI models for proteomics, but most of the scientists who could really, really benefit from them, they can't actually use them. It's a massive issue. So this creates a massive bottleneck that basically just breaks the whole process. I mean, put yourself in a researcher's shoes for a second. First, you got to hunt down the right model. Then, you have to figure out how to get it to talk to your data, which is probably in a totally different programming language. And let's say you even managed to solve that puzzle. You probably need a crazy expensive supercomputer to run the thing. It's a system that just grinds science to a halt for any lab that doesn't have a giant budget. So, how do you fix a problem like that? Well, a team of researchers came up with this really elegant solution. It's called Koina. And the best way to think about it is like an app store, but for all these powerful scientific AI models. Yeah, think of it like a universal translator. Koina creates this super simple, standardized way for any scientist, no matter what programming language they're using, to tap into any of these complex AI models, just over the web. No special hardware needed. It just works. And this slide just illustrates the difference perfectly. The old way, it's a mess of incompatible tools, hardware limits, a bunch of walled gardens that just slow everything down. But the Koina way, it's one simple web-based platform that just tears all those walls down. You get universal access, you get rapid integration, it's a total game changer. And the really crucial thing here is that Koina is way more than just some simple website. It actually hosts over 30 of the most important AI models from all these different research groups. It standardizes everything so all the data and models speak the same language. And get this, it even lets labs that are working with sensitive patient data run their own private version for security. Oh, and on top of all that, it's completely open source. Okay, so an app store for science sounds like a brilliant idea, right? But does it actually work? I mean, in the real world? The real test is whether all this easy access actually leads to better science, to more discoveries. So to find out, the developers did something really smart. They plugged Koina directly into a data analysis tool that a ton of scientists already use every day. It's called FragPipe. And this set up the perfect experiment, a direct head-to-head comparison, the old way versus the Koina way. So what happened? Well, the results were, honestly, they were striking. Just look at this chart. In one really important immunology study, researchers went back and reanalyzed their data, but this time using Koina. And the number of peptide identifications, that's basically how they spot the specific proteins in a sample, it just shot through the roof. I mean, we're talking about a jump of over 53%. And let me be really clear about this. This wasn't because of some brand new AI model. This huge gain came purely from making the powerful tools that already existed easier for people to access and use. That's just a massive, massive improvement. And this result really proves something critical. It shows why having access to lots of different models is so important. See, there's no single best AI model for every single situation. A specialized model, one that's trained for a very specific kind of experiment, is almost always going to beat a generic one. And that's what Koina does. It gives scientists that crucial choice. So you can see the story of Koina is actually much bigger than just this one piece of software. It really points to a fundamental shift in how science itself gets done. We're moving towards a much more open, much more accessible way of innovating. Think about it. By knocking down all those technical and financial walls we mentioned earlier, Koina empowers so many more people to do real cutting-edge research. Suddenly, a small lab with a tiny budget can use the exact same powerful AI tools as a giant, well-funded institution. It makes science more collaborative, the results are more trustworthy, and the bottom line is, it just speeds up the pace of discovery for everybody. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty powerful thought. For centuries, right? Access to the best tools often decided who got to make the next big breakthrough. But what happens when platforms like Koina make those tools available to anyone, anywhere on the planet? It makes you wonder, who's going to make the next big discovery?